The sky above the alien court was dark and heavy. Lightning flashed as two young alien girls stood in chains. Their names were Lyra and Naira, chaos soldiers of the Varelian Empire. They were not criminals, but heroes who had broken one rule. They had saved innocent lives during a forbidden war. The Empire did not forgive kindness when it broke orders. "You are hereby exiled," the voice of the judge echoed. "You will be sent to a primitive planet, Earth," the crowd gasped. Earth was known to them only as a wild, chaotic place, full of danger and emotion. The sentence was final. Lyra stood still, her eyes cold and calm. Naira clenched her fists, her heart beating with fear. They were pushed into a transport pod. No weapons, no guidance, no translator. Just the two of them and a survival box. The ship launched without goodbye. Flames covered the pod as it entered Earth's atmosphere. The heat shook their bones. Naira screamed. But Lyra grabbed her hand. "We survive," Lyra said. Like always, the pod crashed in a cold forest. Far from any city, trees broke, smoke rose, and snow fell gently. Naira opened the hatch and gasped. The air was clean, but cold. Lyra scanned the area with sharp eyes. "This is not death," she said. "This is a test." They walked through the forest, hiding their glowing skin with old cloth from the pod. Animals watched from a distance. Confused and silent, the girls moved like shadows. Soon, they saw strange lights beyond the trees. A human village, full of sounds, cars, and houses. The technology looked old to them, but warm. They stayed hidden. Unsure if these humans were kind or cruel, days passed, and their food ran low. Naira grew weak, her leg injured from the crash. Lyra hunted animals, learned to start a fire, but she could not heal Naira. Naira's eyes turned dull, her voice soft. "Maybe. This is our real punishment," she whispered. Lyra refused to give up. She wrapped Naira in leaves and cloth and left her in a safe cave. Then she moved toward the village. Slowly, carefully, she saw a man in a field. Working alone, he had kind eyes and a quiet face. His name was Josh. Lyra watched him for hours. Then her vision blurred, and her legs gave out. She collapsed on the edge of the field, unconscious. Josh saw her and ran over. She looked strange, her skin slightly silver under the dirt. He picked her up without a word and carried her to his cabin. Inside, he placed her on a couch and wrapped her in a blanket. He touched her foreheads. She was burning with fever. Lyra woke up to soft music, warm air, and a gentle voice. "You okay?" Josh asked. She didn't understand the words, but his tone was clear. She nodded weakly. The translator chip in her ear flickered, trying to power up. Josh gave her water and food. Lyra ate slowly, eyes watching him with caution. He never asked where she came from. He just said, "You can stay here tonight." She didn't respond, but deep down, something inside her shifted. At midnight, Naira crawled to the cabin, hiding in the shadows. She saw Lyra sleeping peacefully and the human nearby. Naira's hand moved to grab a stone, but stopped. The man looked peaceful, like someone who had seen pain but chose kindness. She backed away, hiding in the trees. She would not attack for now. Instead, she watched, ready to protect Lyra if needed. Inside, Lyra sat up and looked at the man again. The translator finally clicked on. She whispered, "Exile. Punishment." Josh looked confused, but smiled. "Safe now," he said softly. "No one hurts you here." Tears touched Lyra's eyes for the first time in years. She didn't know this world, didn't trust its people, but for the first time since the trial, she felt something strange. Hope. And outside, Naira stared at the stars, whispering to herself, "This planet might not be death." The morning air was cold, and frost covered the grass. Josh stepped outside, holding a warm mug in his hands. He looked toward the edge of his field, where the strange girl had collapsed the day before. She was still sleeping. Inside, breathing softly, he didn't know who she was or where she came from, but he knew pain when he saw it. And she had the look of someone who had suffered in silence for a long time. Inside the cabin, Lyra opened her eyes, the warmth confused her. The silence comforted her. She had not felt safe since the trial on her home planet. Now, lying on a human couch, wrapped in soft blankets, she felt like she had landed in a dream. She sat up slowly, still weak but alert. She listened. No machines, no orders, no alarms. Only birds, wind, and the sound of the human outside. Josh came back in and smiled. "You're up," he said gently. "Hungry?" The translator chip caught the words now, though not perfectly. Lyra nodded. Josh handed her a bowl of soup. She sniffed it first, unsure. Then took a careful sip. Warmth spread through her body. She almost cried again, but held it in. "You don't talk much," Josh said, sitting across from her. Lyra looked at him, her silver eyes glowing slightly. "I talk," she whispered, "but not to all." Josh tilted his head, surprised she could speak at all. "Where you from?" he asked. Lyra paused. She could lib at something told her not to. "Far," she said. "Fallen." "From stars," Josh laughed softly, thinking it was a joke. "Yeah," he smiled. "You look like a star girl." Lyra didn't laugh. She just stared out the window toward the forest, where Naira was hiding, cold and alone. Meanwhile, Naira sat behind the trees, her eyes never leaving the cabin. She hadn't eaten in 2 days, and her wound had reopened, but she didn't move. Lyra was inside with a human, and Naira didn't trust humans, even if this one looked different, even if he hadn't hurt her friend. Lyra stood slowly, her body aching. She looked at Josh, then at the door. "My sister," she said, in pain. "Must help." Josh blinked, unsure what she meant. "You have family out there?" She nodded. "Wait here," Josh said, grabbing a jacket and flashlight. Lyra followed him outside, her steps still weak. They walked into the forest. Lyra led the way, guided by her mind link with Naira. After 10 minutes, they found her, curled up under a tree, shivering. Josh dropped to his knees. Shocked, Naira tried to get up, but fell. "It's okay," Josh said. "I won't hurt you." Lyra knelt beside her, holding her hand. Naira looked at Josh with fierce eyes. Her hand lit up with energy, her last defense. But Lyra shook her head. "No," she whispered. "He helped." Naira's light faded, and her body slumped. Josh picked her up, surprised at how light she was. "We have to clean that wound," he said. "Quick." Back at the cabin, Josh laid Naira on the couch and ran to his medicine box. Lyra watched closely as he cleaned the wound. She didn't understand all the tools, but his hands were steady. Naira groaned in pain, but didn't fight him. After the wound was cleaned and wrapped, Josh looked at both girls. "I don't know who you are," he said, "but you're safe here." Lyra sat beside Naira, whispering in their alien tongue. Naira's eyes opened slowly, looking at the ceiling. "She's soft now," Lyra said to Josh. "Soft?" he asked, confused. "She means weak," Naira translated softly, surprising him. "I understand you," Josh said. "Little," Naira replied. "Your words are slow, but kind." Josh made them more soup. They ate together in silence. Lyra's eyes kept watching the small fire in the room. She seemed drawn to it. "Your world," she said slowly. "It's broken, but warm." Josh looked at her, puzzled. "Broken?" "Your skies," she said. "So much poison, so many battles, but people still smile." Naira sat up with effort. "We were sent here as punishment," she said. "They hoped we would suffer." Josh leaned forward. "Why?" "We saved Lives, Lyra said. That was our crime. Josh didn't know what to say, so he just nodded. You're not alone now, he said quietly. Not anymore. The girls looked at each other. Then at him. The fire crackled, and the snow outside began to fall harder for the first time since their exile. The cold didn't feel so deadly inside that small cabin. Something new was growing, not just trust, but something warmer, deeper, a strange connection and far above the earth. In deep space, a signal blinked. Someone had noticed the alien girls were still alive, and they were not happy. The snow had stopped falling. Sunlight touched the trees as birds began to sing. Inside the small cabin, everything was quiet, except for the sound of soft breathing. Naira lay on the couch, her wound healing slowly. Lyra sat by the window, watching the sky with distant eyes. Josh was in the kitchen, making breakfast the only way he knew, with eggs, toast, and black coffee. The alien girls didn't understand most human food, but they ate without complaint. Their bodies had adjusted fast. Stronger than human, faster too, but not invincible, especially when wounded and alone. Naira's voice had returned, sharp and full of questions. What is toast? She asked, holding the bread in 2 fingers. Josh laughed. Bread that got burned a little, he said. Naira raised an eyebrow. Your people eat burned food on purpose. Josh shrugged. Some of us do. Naira shook her head and took a bite anyway. Lyra didn't ask many questions. She listened, studied, and observed everything. She had already learned how to use the small television, how to charge her translator, chip, and even how to read a few English words. Josh noticed her quiet intelligence. She spoke less, but learned more. In the evening, Josh showed them his phone, a glowing screen with voices, videos, and pictures. Naira was amazed. This world is simple, but noisy, she said. Lyra touched the screen gently, watching a video of a laughing baby. What is that sound? She asked. Laughter, Josh replied. It means happiness. Lyra tilted her head. I don't remember that, she said. Softly, Josh didn't press. He could see it in their eyes. These girls had seen too much war. He had seen it too, once, when his brother went to war and never came back. But he didn't talk about it. Not yet. At night, Naira sat by the fire, staring at the flames. Josh joined her with a warm cup of tea. Tell me, she said suddenly, why did you help us? Josh looked at her, then at the fire. You looked like someone who needed help, he said. That's it? Yeah. Naira leaned back. Your people are strange. Josh smiled. Your people are glowing. Lyra came over and sat near them. She looked at Josh carefully. Do you live alone? She asked. He nodded. Since my brother, he said. He was a soldier. Lyra understood that word, dead. Josh nodded again. Naira lowered her eyes. I'm sorry, she said. Josh didn't reply. They sat in silence for a while. A peaceful silence. The next day, Lyra wanted to go outside. She had rested enough and wanted to see more of Earth. Josh gave her a warm coat and boots. She stepped outside and looked around. The forest was quiet, snow melting under the sun. Birds flew overhead, and small animals ran across the path. She climbed a small hill and sat down from there. She could see the village in the distance. Cars moved slowly. People walked with bags. She didn't know them, but they didn't look dangerous. She closed her eyes and listened. The wind was soft here. Not like the sharp winds of her planet, here. It felt like the world was whispering secrets. Back at the cabin, Naira was watching TV. Josh had shown her a movie, something about love and dancing. She was confused, but couldn't stop watching these people. They moved so much just to say, I love you. She asked. Josh laughed. Yeah, love makes us do strange things. Naira stared at the screen. then looked at Josh. "Has love made you strange?" Josh looked surprised. "Maybe," he said. "Hasn't it made everyone strange?" That night, Naira couldn't sleep. She stood by the window, watching the moon. It was full and bright. Unlike the moons back home, Josh was asleep in the chair. Alla was writing strange symbols in a notebook. Naira whispered, "Lyra." "Yes." "Do you think this world could be home?" Lyra didn't answer right away. She looked at Josh, then at the notebook. "Maybe," she said. "If we're allowed." Suddenly, the translator chip in Lyra's ear buzzed. She grabbed it and checked the small screen. A signal had been received. Her eyes went wide. "What is it?" Naira asked. Lyra showed her the display, a single word flashing in alien script. "Hunted." They stared at each other, far above Earth. Someone had activated the beacon. The Empire now knew they were alive. And they were coming. But this time, the girls weren't alone. They had a human. And something else they didn't have before. A reason to fight for something more than survival. A reason called love. Asterisk. The night sky above the forest was clear. Stars blinked silently, unaware of the danger growing in space. Inside the small cabin, Lyra stood frozen, staring at the message on her wrist device. Naira read it too, her body tense. Josh watched them with concern. "What is it?" he asked. Lyra turned slowly, her voice calm but cold. "They're coming," she said. "Hunters." Josh didn't understand at first. "Hunters," he repeated. "From our world," Naira said. "They come to finish the exile." Lyra nodded. "We were not just punished," she said. "We were meant to die far from home." Josh sat down, trying to think. How long before they arrive? 2 days, maybe less. Lyra said. Josh looked around the cabin. It was small, peaceful. "Built for comfort, not war. We can't fight them," he said. "Not with this." Naira gave a bitter smile. "We don't plan to fight with wood and fire." The girls opened their survival box, the one sent with them in exile. They had left it hidden in the forest until now. Inside were pieces of tech, small, alien, but powerful. Not enough for full weapons, but enough to build traps. Lyra began connecting wires and crystals. Naira drew maps in the snow, showing angles and entry points. Josh joined them, bringing tools and wires from his shed. He didn't understand alien tech, but he understood building. "We'll lead them here," Lyra said, pointing to a path. "We create a signal, make them think we're helpless." Naira looked at Josh. "And you?" "I stay," he said. "Without fear, you could die," Lyra warned. Josh looked at both of them and said quietly, "Then I die standing with you, for the first time." Naira's eyes softened. She didn't answer, but she nodded slowly. Together, they prepared. Wires were hidden under leaves, small mines placed under the ground. A signal tower was built using Earth's satellite dish and alien crystals. It sent out a soft pulse, enough for the hunters to trace. Lyra stayed close to Josh. As they worked through the night, he watched her hands move like she had done this 100 times. "You were a soldier?" he asked. "Before the war ended," she replied. "Then a criminal? You don't seem like one." Josh said. "I saved children," she said. "But they were the enemy." Josh didn't speak. He just handed her another wire. Sometimes silence said more than words. The next morning, the air felt different. Birds were gone. The wind was still. Naira stood outside with sharp eyes. "They're near," she said. Lyra loaded her energy blade. Though it was low on power, Josh held a hunting rifle not strong enough for aliens. But better than nothing. Then they heard it. A deep hum in the sky. A black ship appeared above the trees, sleek and fast. It dropped silently into the clearing. And 4 alien figures stepped out, tall, armored, with glowing red visors. The lead hunter spoke. "Lyra of House Vecker," he said, "and Naira of House Talon." The girls stepped forward. "You have violated exile protocol," he continued. You saved enemy civilians, disobeyed orders, and now you resist death. Lyra raised her chin. We found something here, she said. Naira added. Something worth protecting. Josh stepped beside them. The lead hunter tilted his head. A human. Naira answered. Yes, a human. He's not your kind. The hunter growled, but he chose to help. Lyra said something our kind never did. Without warning, the hunters raised their weapons. Lyra and Naira activated the traps. Bright flashes exploded from the ground, sending the first hunter flying. Josh shot once, hitting armor but doing little. Naira dashed forward, striking with her blade. Lyra used the last charge in her device to knock one hunter into a tree, but they were still outnumbered. Josh was grabbed and thrown into the snow. Naira screamed and ran to him. She took a hit to her side but didn't stop. She covered Josh with her body. The hunter raised his weapon ready to fire again. Then something strange happened. A strange light glowed from Naira's chest. Her implant had activated fully, reacting. To her emotion, a shockwave burst out, sending the hunters flying backward. Lyra pulled Josh to safety while Naira collapsed. When the smoke cleared, only one hunter stood. He looked at Lyra, then at Josh. You love this world now? He asked. No, Lyra said, holding Josh close. We love what we found here. The hunter stepped back. He looked at the damage at the human and the brave alien girls. This is not over. He warned, then he vanished, his ship disappearing. Into the sky, the silence returned. Lyra held Josh's hand, blood on her arm. Naira lay still, but breathing. They had survived the first wave, but war was coming. And they were ready to protect their new home together. Snow covered the battlefield like a blanket. The trees stood quiet again, hiding the scars of the fight. Inside the cabin, the fire was burning low. Josh sat beside Naira, who lay unconscious on the couch. Her breathing was shallow and her face pale. Lyra stood near the window, her hands shaking as she stared into the forest. They'll come again, she whispered. Josh looked up, tired but calm. I know, he said. But we'll be ready, Lyra. Turned around, her voice sharp. No, you won't, she said. They won't stop this time. Josh walked over to her, placing a hand on her shoulder. Then, we don't stop either, he said. Lyra looked into his eyes, seeing something deep, not fear, not confusion, something stronger. Loyalty. Naira groaned, waking up slowly. Her body was weak, but her mind was clear. She tried to sit, and Josh rushed to help her. I'm fine, she said softly. I just need time. Lyra knelt beside her, holding her hand tightly. They nearly killed you, she said. They'll try again, Naira replied, but they won't break us. That night, Lyra sat beside Josh near the fire. The room was quiet. Filled only with the crackling wood, she stared at the flames, thinking about her past. She had trained to fight, to kill, to win. But no one had ever trained her to feel. Now, sitting here beside a human, she didn't feel like a soldier. She felt something else, something she didn't fully understand. Josh noticed a look in her eyes. You okay? He asked. She nodded slowly. I don't know this feeling, she said. Josh smiled gently. Maybe that's a good thing. Lyra turned toward him, her voice low. Do you feel it too? Josh didn't speak right away. He reached for her hand and held it. Yes, he said. I do. Their hands stayed together, fingers locking gently. Outside, the wind picked up, far above the clouds. The stars watched silently. The next day, the warning came. The scanner beeped 3 times. 3 new ships entering Earth's orbit. Lyra's heart sank. They're bringing more, she said. Not hunters, executioners. Naira sat up, still weak, but determined. Then we show them what love can do. Josh prepared the last of his supplies. He took old car batteries, wires, and parts of the survival kit. With Lyra's help, they turned the cabin into a trap again. Nira set up a defense wall outside using energy fields from the alien tech. Josh looked at both of them. "You don't have to stay," he said. Lyra looked at him, her voice firm. "This is our fight too now." That evening, the sky turned red. 3 ships fell through the clouds like burning stars. They landed with thunder shaking the ground. Out came 6 armored soldiers, each taller and stronger than the last. They marched through the forest, weapons glowing. The trees burned where they stepped. Josh, Lyra, and Nira waited behind the cabin. The moment the first soldier stepped forward, the trap activated. Electric blasts shot from the ground, stunning 2 of them. Nira fired a pulse beam, hitting a third in the chest, but the others kept coming, faster than expected. One of them reached the wall and blasted it open. Josh fired his rifle, slowing them down. Lyra jumped into the air, spinning and kicking one hard into a tree. But then a soldier grabbed Josh and threw him against the cabin wall. He hit hard and didn't move. "Josh!" Lyra screamed. She ran to him, dodging blasts. Nira covered her, taking another shot to her arm. Lyra reached Josh's side, tears filling her eyes. He was bleeding, barely breathing. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Please." The enemy raised his weapon to fire again. Lyra stood between Josh and the blast, her arms wide, her voice strong. "You will not take him," she said. The weapon fired, but before the beam hit, a bright shield exploded around her. Her implant had fused with Josh's body heat, unlocking full power. The beam bounced off, and Lyra charged forward. She struck with all her strength, powered by emotion. The last 2 soldiers fell back, broken and stunned. The forest fell quiet. Once more, the battle was over. Lyra dropped to her knees beside Josh. He opened his eyes slowly, coughing. "You stayed," he whispered. "Always," she said, pressing her forehead to his. Nira limped over, bruised but smiling. "You, too," she said, "are ridiculous." Lyra laughed softly. "I think we're just human now." Josh held their hands in that small cabin, surrounded by snow and fire. They had found something stronger than power, stronger than fear, love in the middle of war, love in the crossfire. The snow melted slowly in the morning light. The battle was over, but the cabin was broken. The walls were scorched, the floor covered in ash. Josh sat outside, his arm in a sling. Lyra was beside him, silent, watching the sky. Nira stood near the edge of the forest, her body still sore, but standing strong. None of them spoke for a long time. The silence wasn't empty. It was the silence of survivors, of people who had seen death, but were still breathing. Then the sky shifted, a deep sound echoed through the clouds. A large shadow passed overhead, a ship far bigger than the hunter's crafts. Lyra's eyes narrowed. "That's not them," she said. Nira's voice was tense. "That's the council ship. The Galactic Council, the rulers of their world." If they had come now, it meant one thing. Their exile was ending, one way or another. The ship landed in a nearby field, quiet and graceful. A platform lowered, and 3 figures stepped out. They wore silver robes, faces covered by masks. They looked at Lyra and Nira without emotion. "You have survived," the lead figure said. "Yes," Lyra replied, standing tall. "You have caused damage to the hunting party. They tried to kill us," Nira answered. "And you made contact with a native species." Lyra looked at Josh, then back at the figure. "Yes," she said. "We did." The council remained still. "Your punishment was exile," the figure said. "You were not expected to live, yet you did." Josh stepped forward slowly. "She's alive because she fought for what's right," he said. They both did. The council turned to him. "You are a human." The lead figure said, "Josh." Nodded, "Yes. Do you understand what they truly are?" Josh looked at Lyra. Then Naira. "They're not different from us," he said. "They bleed, they feel, they love." A long pause followed. Then the council said, "We have orders." "To return us?" Lyra asked. "To offer you your names back, your homes, your rank," the council replied. "But only if you cut ties with this world." Lyra went quiet. Naira looked at her sister, then at Josh. Josh didn't say anything. He didn't ask them to stay. He just looked at them with honest eyes. "You would give us power again?" Lyra asked. "Yes." The council said, "You would erase our exile." Naira asked. "Yes, and what of him?" Lyra asked, pointing to Josh. "He is nothing to us." They replied, "Then your offer is nothing to us," Lyra said firmly. The council stepped back slightly, surprised. Naira walked forward. "Earth showed us something more than our world ever did," she said. "Honor." "No," she said. "Heart?" Josh blinked. Surprised by her words, the girls had changed. They were no longer soldiers. They were something else. Now, stronger, softer, braver. "You choose exile, okay?" The council asked. Lyra stepped beside. "Josh, we choose freedom," she said. Naira joined them. "We choose him." The council didn't argue. They simply turned and walked back to their ship. Before leaving, the lead figure said, "This world is not part of the Alliance." "We know," Lyra said. "Then be warned," the council said. "You are no longer protected." "We never were," Naira replied. The ship rose into the sky and vanished. The snow fell gently again, as if the storm had passed. Josh looked at them, unsure what to say. "You stayed," he said. "Yes," Lyra whispered. "This is home now," Naira added. That evening, they rebuilt the cabin together. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. They fixed the walls, cleaned the blood, and laughed a little. It was the first time Josh had heard Naira laugh, and she smiled more now. Not big smiles, but soft ones, the kind that stayed in the eyes. Later, by the fire, Lyra touched Josh's hand. "Do you still want us here?" she asked. Josh looked at her. "Always," he said. Naira threw a blanket at him playfully. "Then get used to aliens," she said. "We're not going anywhere." They weren't soldiers anymore. They weren't exiles. They were something new, something stronger than any empire. They had chosen love. They had chosen Earth. Spring came slowly to the forest. The snow melted and green returned to the trees. The birds sang louder each morning. And the cold air became soft again. The cabin, once broken by war, now stood strong and clean. Josh planted flowers along the path, smiling every time he stepped outside. Lyra helped him build a solar fence. Not for defense, but for peace. Naira had taken over one corner of the cabin for her inventions. With tools from Earth and pieces of alien tech, she created strange gadgets. One was a silent alarm for intruders. Another was a small floating light that followed her around. Josh called it Firebug, and Naira secretly liked the name. The girls no longer hid from the village. They wore simple clothes, covered their marks, and moved among the people. They helped old women carry groceries, played with children at the park. At first, the townspeople stared, unsure what to think. But over time, kindness turned suspicion into friendship. Josh told people they were cousins from far away. He didn't explain more, and no one asked too many questions. Sometimes, the truth didn't need to be spoken. It just needed to be lived. One afternoon, a small boy named Kevin came to the cabin. He had fallen and scraped his knee while playing. Lyra picked him up gently, cleaned the wound, and gave him a cookie. The boy smiled, and before leaving, he said, "You're the nicest robot I ever met." Lyra laughed, not sure what a robot was, but she liked the sound of it. At night, the three of them sat around the fire. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. The warmth between them was enough. Josh often stared at the stars. "Do you miss your home?" he asked one night. Lyra looked up at the sky. "Yes," she said softly. "But not as much as I thought I would," Naira added. "Home is where someone waits for you." Josh smiled and nodded. "Then I'm lucky you chose this home." 1. Morning. Lyra found a letter at their door. It had no name, no return address, just a message. "We know you're here, but we won't follow." Some of us believe in second chances. She showed it to Naira and Josh. No one spoke for a long time. Then Lyra quietly burned the letter in the fire. Let the past watch from a distance. The future was here. Josh decided to open a center near the town, a place for people who had nowhere else to go. He called it the Haven. Lyra and Naira helped build it, brick by brick. Strangers came, some lost, some scared, but many found comfort there. One woman came crying. Holding a child, Naira gave her a blanket and food. Lyra sat beside the child and showed her how to draw stars. Josh watched them both and felt something grow in his chest. Not pride, not joy, something deeper. Belonging. Years passed like quiet waves. The cabin grew into a home. The home grew into a legend. Some people said two strange sisters lived in the woods. Some said they were angels. Others believed they were aliens. No one ever found out the truth, and somehow that made it better. One night, Lyra sat beside Josh under the stars. She placed her hand in his and said, "If we had never come here, I would never have known this feeling." Josh squeezed her hand. "And I would never have known what was missing." Naira walked out, holding 3 mugs of tea. She handed them out and sat with a sigh. "Weird world," she said, looking at the stars. "Yeah," Josh replied, "but it's ours now." The 3 of them sat in silence. Alien, human, and something more. Not soldiers, not victims, not exiles anymore. Just a family, far above Earth, in the dark corners of space. Other beings watched, waited, and wondered. But none dared come close again, not because of fear, but because something stronger protected that cabin. Not weapons, not war, but love.